listening to ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv, live from ASOTU CON 2023.
All right, welcome to ASOTU CON Sessions for Effectv. I'm Michael Cirillo, sitting down with John Sacco, the president of Sierra International Machinery. Thanks so much for joining me on ASOTU CON Sessions.
It's great to be here, man.
Okay, I have all sorts of questions, so we're just going to get into it. I got to set the stage here. We're here at an automotive conference, and I've done a little bit of research, and I'm curious about this. Sierra International Machinery. First of all, how did you get into that sector of the business?
Okay, so our company initially started as a recycling facility. We recycle iron, copper, aluminum, and even do paper now. So my father saw a machine in Italy that could go into our industry in 1983, and I graduated from USC in 84, and he wanted to get involved with the equipment business, but my focus is the industry, the metals recycling and paper recycling industry, or the recycled materials industry, as I like to call it.
Which I imagine is a lot more far-reaching than it sounds.
Well, absolutely, because you're talking about commodities that are traded worldwide.
Right.
You have steel mills, foundries all over the world that use recycled metals to make new steel, new aluminum, new copper. And if you think about anything metal, it's most likely got recycled metal content in it at some point. If not 100%, it's a high level of recycled metals in it.
So we have a mutual friend, Darren Doan. One time and now I'm connecting the dots. He was talking about you.
Uh-oh.
And he said, no, you don't understand. Just think of the sheer amount of rebar that winds through the infrastructure of America. And I went, huh. I didn't even think about it.
Well, rebar, we just finished shooting season 2 of Repurposed, the docuseries, and our focus is on rebar because basic infrastructure, basic foundations to any building, any highway project, schools, hospitals, airports. When you look at the concrete, it all starts with rebar reinforcement, and rebar comes from the recycled materials industry. So our industry is the raw material supplier to these mills, but also into, for instance, Toyota, that they have a subsidiary, Toyota Tusho, that melts aluminum and makes molten aluminum that goes right next door to the Toyota motor plant in Troy, Missouri, that makes motor blocks, transmission housings, all from recycled aluminum.
Yeah, it's not something you think about, right? You don't wake up in the morning and go, I wonder how much metal is being used. But obviously you keyed in on something and your family keyed in on something and said, no, massive market. Tell me, though, I'm interested, where in your journey as a company do you say, oh, here's how we take this whole thing to the next level?
Well, first of all, for me, on an individual level in the company, how do we brand Sierra? And I do a podcast, Pile of Scrap. We've done different creative content, different fun stuff. We have Super Bowl commercials talking about recycling pizza boxes, and I've done a Godfather scene where recycling the offer you can't refuse. We just do a lot of fun stuff. But the docuseries is a really highly professionally done series that really promotes for people to understand that if it's metal, you touch it, it's most likely coming from a recycled materials facility. We're not junkyards. We're not waste. Nobody calls gold waste, right, Michael? Why?
Because it's a precious metal.
but why is it precious?
I don't know. Why is it?
Because it has value.
It has value. Yes, it has intrinsic value.
Industrial value for industrial applications.
Right.
Okay, so why isn't copper, just because it's $4 a pound and not gazillion dollars a pound like gold?
Sure.
Why is that waste? It isn't, because it's a commodity. Steel is the same thing. Recycled iron is a commodity. It trades. All our metals and paper, it trades worldwide, but that's the narrative change I'm looking for. We're not waste. We're not junk. We are a necessity. We are essential to manufacture. We're essential to the backbone of this country. Let's have a military without steel.
Right.
Let's have a Navy without steel, aluminum, stainless, copper, brass.
Right. It makes me think differently, because I'm even going to go to my home when I come home from this conference and I'm be like, oh, steel.
All right, so you open your refrigerator. What's your refrigerator made of?
Yeah.
Steel. But what runs that refrigerator? A little motor. What's in that motor?
Steel.
No, steel. But Copper.
Copper.
So everything.
Yes.
Yeah, if you think of all the lighting here in this facility, it's got a high, probably 36% copper, recycled copper content in it. Okay, so we don't know the medical devices, knee braces, aluminum, recycled aluminum.
How do I get into this business?
Well, you're more than welcome to try. My dad had a saying: if you want to make a small fortune, invest a large fortune in our industry.
Oh, I'm not going to try and start from scratch. I'm like, how do I get into Sierra? Well, you know what's interesting about this as well is, you know, the automotive industry in particular, to draw a parallel here, has had stigmas looming over it for quite some time. And I love how you're saying, hey, I'm on a mission to actually change this stigma. We're not waste. We're not this. We're not that. You know, for the auto dealer listening in, they could simply inject their term of the stigma there. We're not, you know, sleazy. We're not here to take advantage. We're not. And I love how you're approaching that. You used a word that I love.
What's that?
Which is indoctrinating.
Well, you look, we all have challenges. What do you think the challenge is for the oil industry? Big oil, big pharma.
Right.
Everybody, you know, it's not what you say, it's what they hear. And this is what's important. And I think the audience to the challenge for auto dealers and what does the audience hear when they see these commercials? And see, I think they need to focus in on that. Like I'm trying to focus in on trying to change the narrative. And I think that the opportunities out there for any industry trying to change a narrative. But you got to be more than just one voice. You have to be more than just one dealer. You know, you got, and see, and I think that's what's really interesting about the automotive industry and recycled materials. We coexist. We need each other to build the materials. So, you know, Mercedes runs an ad about the plastic that comes from recycled. Well, that bugs me because out of that 3,800 pounds of Mercedes S-Class, you know, sedan, you got 70% recycled metals in that whole damn car. Why aren't we talking about that?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, because we simply don't know. Is that
they do know, but they don't. They just think the market wants to hear about plastic
and EVs.
Yeah. Well, EVs. You know, how much copper are we going to need for EVs? And aluminum.
Oh,
and where's that going to come from?
Yeah.
So they want to talk. Oh, we're eco-friendly. Well, let's talk about how recycled materials that they use for the automobiles. Okay, reduce CO2 emissions and energy consumption in the manufacturing process.
Right.
So we coexist, and I think our message together can really enhance our image. And then dealers with whatever, you know, challenges they have, people got to start changing it. You know, it starts with 1, 2, and then it snowballs. But if you got a challenge, stop hiding. Our industry hid for decades.
Tell me a little bit more about the docuseries. It's called Repurpose.
It's called Repurpose. And season 1, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, me and Darren Down. But we got out there and we went and toured a metal shredding operation in Davenport, Iowa. And 20 miles down the road was SSAB steel mill. And so we followed recycled metal, iron, to the steel mill. And did the whole process.
Wow.
And we talked, too, about safety and how the mill is important because people don't know what a steel mill is.
Right.
You ask John Cupo, what does a steel mill do?
I wouldn't, yeah.
They don't know. So, but the products, the plate that come from it goes to build bridges and stadiums like Las Vegas, the Elite, what is
it?
The
new Raiders Stadium.
The new Raiders Stadium.
Right.
And all that steel, not all 100%, but a lot of that steel is coming from SSAB, which is made from recycled iron.
Interesting.
So let's talk about how cool that is. That's the purpose.
So that's the backbone of
Repurpose.
Of Repurpose.
Yeah, we're not junk. You know, the stadiums aren't made from junk. They're made from recycled iron, a commodity, not waste.
What's the end result goal? So you're putting this out. You're changing the narrative. What are you? Yeah, you're aiming to. That's the goal. Is that the end goal? Is simply to say, well, we've now changed the narrative, or how do you see from a branding perspective that positively returns back to you?
Fair question. Look, first and foremost, it's a brand build for my company. Okay, it's a brand build for me within our industry. Okay, so people look at me and go, "Hey, we love what you're doing." You know, I got people at our big convention in Nashville this year. People would stop me. Never mind. Hey, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing for the industry. So that doesn't hurt. But the narrative change, you know, you got to get to regulators and policymakers because in California, for instance, metal recyclers, some of them are deemed hazardous waste facilities.
Right.
It's just wrong.
Sure.
And they don't know. They don't know the impact. If you eliminate metal recyclers in this country, Where are steel mills going to get the raw material to make the products that these regulators have to use? They still got to eat, right? How do you farm food and harvest without metals,
the machinery.
tractors?
Yeah.
And then it goes in a truck made from recycled iron on a highway that has rebar in it made from recycled iron to a food processing plant with the foundation recycling and it's steel and all the copper and everything in it. How are we going to eat? How are we going to get our medicine? How do we have a hospital? What's a hospital look like if we don't have the raw material to make the metals that need to build the structure? It's going to look like a Civil War.
It's going to look like
an
Adobe
a Gettysburg.
hut.
Yeah, Adobe hut at Gettysburg, where we're sawing people's limbs off because you don't have the electronics and nothing.
Sure.
So these people need to wake up too, because we're not junk, we're not waste. And so this is my challenge, my personal challenge, my passion. Let's get out there and try to change the narrative.
This is amazing. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining me on ASOTU Con Sessions for Effectv. How can those listening or watching get in touch with you, learn more about Repurpose and your podcast?
My podcast is called Pile of Scrap.
I love that.
Yeah, isn't that a fun name?
I love it.
I'm on LinkedIn, Repurposed. We're out there. So John Sacco, I'm on LinkedIn. Follow me, follow Sierra International. But, and Repurpose is on Amazon Prime.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so you can find it. We're visible. So anybody wants to reach out and have more conversations, because I think ultimately the auto industry needs to push more towards that their product is made from recycled metals, the total recycled content, and then dealers with whatever they want to talk about. How do you change the narrative? Well, you got to get out there and start.
Right.
So I'm available. Find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't care. Wherever you can find John Sacco, I'm there.
I love it. Appreciate you for joining me today.
Michael, been great to be here, man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.